All right, so we're now here live with Carson Johnstone, a current hockey coach, former professional hockey player. He's played some time over in Sweden, Denmark, time here in North America. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, man, no problem. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we're excited. Just bring that mic a little bit closer.
Sorry.
And then, so tell us a bit about yourself, what you have played, what you've done, what you're currently doing.
Okay, well, I guess my hockey experience is kind of unique. I grew up, playing AAA and single A around here, like in the Niagara region and stuff. And as I got older, I didn't grow too much, so I never got drafted or anything like that. And I think for a lot of guys, it's kind of like, my career might be over or ending if you don't get drafted kind of thing. But I was an example. Like I played single A, like in midget and everything, and then finally got to play a little bit of junior hockey and college, and then a little bit of minor pro. So I was pretty fortunate to have the experiences that I've had with hockey. It's basically all it is about my hockey career. We can get into the details later, but now I coach currently with the Pelham Panthers in the GOJHL.
Yeah.
Started the year with Fort Erie, but I've coached when I was in Europe a little bit too. U20 program in Denmark and a U15 program in Sweden, and I also head coach a Bantam AE team right now. My cousin's on it, so that's been a little bit of fun too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically it.
So you mix in a bit of that, fun aspect of the coaching as well,
Yeah.
aside from the professional side that you're trying to attain to.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to keep it fun.
Yeah. So okay, it brings up a good point. Let's talk about these Pelham Panthers.
Okay.
Where you're at. I think that's
Move the mic close to you.
closer.
Like just it's good.
Wow. Normally I never screw up that part. So what led to you having a desire to coach?
So my dad coached in the OHL when I was born. He coached the Niagara Falls Thunder when they were a team here. And then they moved to Erie Otters, and then he coached in the Sioux for the Greyhounds. So that was pretty cool. I grew up, being coached by him in minor hockey. Even in juniors, I ended up playing for my dad. Also kind of a funny story, but
Let's hear it.
okay, well, so what happened was I started playing with Thorold,
Okay.
the Blackhawks in this league, local league, and my dad was coaching, so I'd come home from prep school. I went to prep school out in the States for a bit, and I was playing okay, whatever, like nothing crazy. First year of junior, whatever, getting my legs, and I actually got cut randomly from the owners, which is kind of funny. I came home one night. I think I was hanging out with my friends. I don't know, who cares where I was. So I got home, my dad and my mom were sitting at the table like all upset, and I was like, what the hell's going on here? So I walked in, I'm like, what's going on? And my dad goes, yeah, well, we just got a call from, the owners in Thorold. And I was like, oh, like what happened? Like, did you get fired? Like, I don't know. He goes, I quit. And I was like, why'd you quit? He goes, because they cut you. And I was like, what? Like, I couldn't believe it. But anyway, so I'm like, okay.
Talk about a
Like,
loyal father, eh? Just sticking up for
well,
his
that's
son.
what he said too. He goes, I quit on the spot. And I'll spare the real intricate details just for, people's sake. But it was kind of just a weird situation. And then I went to Fort Erie, and I was playing in Fort Erie for a couple months. The coach resigned there. Then the other coach that stepped in, he got suspended, and then they hired my dad. So I ended up playing for him anyway for the next year and a half, which is kind of
No
funny.
way.
Yeah.
That's a wild whirlwind experience.
Yeah. So, I guess coming full circle, that's why I like coaching, I guess. Just watched my dad do it my whole life and kind of looked up to him, and, I learned a lot about the game, and I think I know a fair bit about hockey, so might as well pass on the knowledge and stay involved in the game. So that's why I like to coach.
It's interesting. We've had a couple different people come on the podcast now that have started off in those playing careers and then transitioned to coaching now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's rewarding in the sense that you're able to give back that knowledge that you have. And in addition, it's cool to see what you're able to, that knowledge that you can put onto those other individuals and see how they grow and progress over time.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm sure it's extremely insightful from your part, seeing what these little kids, I shouldn't say little, U15, U20, whatever age, right?
Well, it's funny that you say the little kids too, because funny enough, I was talking to my girlfriend, and the junior age players, they know how to play, basically, like their skills and stuff. Obviously, we work with them and work on the little things they need to get better at, but generally they're pretty good hockey players. But the younger kids, it's fun because you need to polish them, right? So you teach them some things and you can see the improvement almost instantly, right? So you see them start to get better. Then next practice, you might do the same thing, and then they're way better at it, So it's like, it's more rewarding coaching the younger kids, I find, but it's more fun to coach the older kids, if that makes sense.
For sure. You get to see some real legit plays.
Yeah,
some guys who are
exactly.
busting their ass playing as hard as they possibly can, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what would you focus on teaching the younger kids as opposed to the older kids?
Well, my core of what I teach with my business and everything, is simplicity and basic skills. Obviously, fundamentals for younger kids. If you can't do the basics the best, it's like Kobe Bryant, God bless him. You know what I mean? Like, and I use this analogy a lot, which might be lame or whatever, but Kobe Bryant always said, like, just because something's basic doesn't mean it's easy. And he practiced the most basic things and he perfected them, and he was the best at doing the basics, right? So if you can do all the best things or all the basic things the best, then it makes your game that much what's the word I'm looking for? It changes your game, so it makes the difficult things easier, if you know what I mean. Because skating, for instance, right? Like, I mean, you got to be able to move. If you can't move, you can't play the game. That's very, very simple, and a lot of people just don't think about it that way.
Yeah, the fundamentals get lost so much now in people trying to get to that next level, take whatever steps necessary to get there the quickest possible, right? They forget about, making sure that you're focusing on your true grassroots to make sure that the rest of your game can evolve appropriately, right? And so many guys now are specializing at such a young age that they think that they've got these basics down because they've been playing for 2 years, when in reality, your crossovers are shit, and you can't snap a wrist shot properly, right? But you think because you can rip a slap shot 100 miles an hour that you're Gucci.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It doesn't work like that, right?
I think you could rip that like lacrosse style play behind the net.
Oh man, you should see all the kids trying to do that now, because like it was always funny, like when you see it in college, right? And you're like, oh, that's wild. And Crosby did it years ago, and now Svechnikov's done it twice this year. And
It was done in the World Juniors too.
Yeah, all the kids are trying to do it. It's funny. It's almost annoying though. In practice yesterday, I had a little guy crying because he picked up the puck and tried to do it, and the goalie just drilled him, buried him.
Tim Thomas style. Yeah. 2011 Vancouver Canucks against the City.
Exactly. He started crying. He's like, you can't do that. And I was like, well, you can't really like pick the puck up above your head either. But I mean, it was funny.
So how do you, because obviously, mid-20s, how are you able to ensure that kids are taking you seriously as well? Because as a younger coach, I'm sure, especially even at the junior level, for instance, you've got guys that are looking at you that are 18, 19. They're like, oh, why the hell should I listen to this guy? He's only a couple years older than me, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think you earn respect based on, how you conduct yourself. Obviously, it's all business. It's got to be business. And if it's not, then that's when you lose that respect, right? So you got to know when to be intense, when to obviously take things seriously, but you also got to take it light too sometimes. You know what I mean? Keep the guys loose.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's weird. It's like a balance, and you can fall off the wagon pretty easily, right? Like all it takes is one mistake or one thing, and the guy's going, who's this guy? Like, he's a clown. You know what I mean? Because especially kids now, they're so different, right? It's not, you don't get automatic respect like in the old days when, my dad used to coach and stuff. They could do and say whatever they wanted and, rip guys, and they'd come back and work their nuts off for them the next day. But it's not the same anymore. Guys are different. You got to kind of stroke them a little bit and coddle them, make sure everything's fine,
And now you got coaches getting fired left, right, and center because of X, Y, Z. The stories about kids getting taped to light poles, like shit that just can't be happening nowadays, especially with how soft kids are nowadays.
Yeah.
Pardon, I know.
No,
I'm in that generation, right? But it's true. It's tough when. No. I'm sure it's difficult as a coach now, and it's something you have to monitor 100% of the time. You can't ever slip up because it's your job on the line.
Exactly. You just can't do it. I mean, of course, there's, things you get comfortable with, and you take for granted. And that's, I guess, the main thing is making sure you stay on top of it and don't get complacent as a coach, as well as make sure your players don't, with playing and attitudes, of course, so, I mean, that's a huge part of it now. It's just the mental side.
Yeah, you bring up complacency, which was one of these points I wanted to bring up. And, in youth sports, there's this losing culture that's associated. And, people are okay with the fact that losing is part of their life at a certain point when, kids are going out, they're playing for participation medals, whatever it is. How are kids not, or what is your standpoint on that?
Yeah, so I see it kind of every day, right? Like, I mean, even at the junior level with some kids, we'll lose a game, 6-7-1, whatever, and you might have a couple kids that still care and, want to win and have that desire and passion to strive and be better. But a lot of kids just, kick their shoes off, kick their skates off, laughing it up, put the music on, have a good time. Like, they're there to have fun, which obviously hockey's supposed to be, a fun time. But it's just frustrating when, you put a lot of time into something, as like, from my perspective, putting a lot of time in, and, guys not taking it the most serious. It's kind of, a little frustrating because, you want your guys to just compete and want to win just like we do, and that's kind of the separation you got to make too. Like, I just finished playing, and I got to remember sometimes, like, you're the coach, you're not the fiery player, and all those things. You got to keep your emotions in check. But I mean, the complacency is frustrating for sure, because like you said, their kids are rewarded for everything. They expect, a pat on the back for everything. And I told the guys the other night, like, we had a tough game, and we just had a discussion after the game. I was like, boys, like, it's not always going to be there. It's not always going to happen. But like, when we come in here, we got to introspectively think about things and think about how to get better. Because if you're satisfied after every game, even if you didn't have, a great game, you might have had a good game, but don't be satisfied. If you had a bad game, definitely don't be satisfied. If you had a great game, think about the things you could have done better, because that's how you improve.
Yeah.
You're not going to improve if you're just every game, mom says, hey, good job, buddy, gives you, $20 for your goal or whatever it is. And actually, that ties into that FHL thing I was going to tell you about. But
really,
the money for goals, yeah. It's
okay. Hold on, let's dive into it. Okay,
Okay.
What is it? FHL, the Federal Hockey
the
League.
Federal Prospects Hockey League, kind of funny.
And what level is that?
Men's league. It might as well be men's league, honestly.
This is a semi-pro down in the States, technically.
Yeah, it's minor professional.
Okay.
First of all, the team that I played for was paying like 6 of their guys $98 a week.
Whew.
So I just don't even understand why guys would do that to themselves. But the reason I went down, so I know a guy, he's from, I think he's from up north somewhere, but he lived around here, Rob Babiak. Do you guys know him?
The name rings a
Yeah,
bell.
he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He works hard, and he's been trying to get into coaching and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. He does some agency. He did some agency work.
Yeah,
as
he was
well.
working with Import Sports Management for a
Okay.
little bit, doing
Okay.
some social media stuff and that. So that's why he's really connected in the hockey world, right?
Gotcha.
So he got a job down in Watertown, and he asked if me and my friend Nikita, who's also my business partner, if we would go down and play a few games. They needed guys, emergency players. So I'm like, oh fuck, like, we'll see. Like, I don't know. I talked to Nikita. I was like, okay, we'll go. They're gonna give us $50 a game and like meal money, gas money, all this stuff. So I'm like, you know what? Who cares? Free weekend. We'll go play. It'll be fun.
Some puck. Yeah.
Fuck it. So we get down there, and I'm like, okay, like, this already sucks. Like, I want to go home. Like, but just because, like, I have a life here now too. Like, I'm done playing, and when I got there, I was like, oh, what am I doing? But anyway, so we get on the bus the next morning. We got to drive down to Connecticut. So we drive down the Wednesday night, I think. Yeah, Wednesday night, and then Thursday morning we left for Connecticut.
Is this team bus, or are you driving your own?
This is team bus.
Okay.
Yeah, so team bus. So we're sitting there just kind of like getting to know all the guys and stuff, and their captain, this guy, I won't say names, but you can look back anyway. But anyway, the guy's just kind of, he was just a goof, and he's walking back and just like eyeing people down, and I'm like thinking in my head, like, man, you literally play men's league. Like, I don't know why you're fucking gunning people down. This doesn't make sense. Like, this is insane. So we're laying there, and I'm thinking, like, when are we getting paid for our gas money, for all this stuff, like meals, because we were supposed to have food paid for. So I fall asleep on the bus. It's like an 8-hour trip down to Connecticut. So I'm laying there, and I wake up, and there's a $5 bill like on my shoulder, and I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? So I look, and I'm like, yo, Harv, this guy sitting behind me, like Will Harvey. I'm like, Harv, did you lose your $5 bill? And he goes, no, that's your per diem. And I'm like, I started laughing. I was like, haha, like, good one, man. Here's your money. He's like, no, seriously, that's your per diem. I was like, $5 like, we have to get pregame meal, all this stuff. Like, obviously I had my own money, but I was like, this is fucking per diem, dude. He starts laughing.
Because it's American, it's what, like 15 Canadian at that point, right? So.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, but I mean, I think I got a coffee from Starbucks, and then I was pretty much broke.
Holy
for that,
shit.
for that one.
So that explains why you played 3 games in the FHL.
Yeah, I mean, I was only going down for 3 anyways, but
Okay.
but the money for goals thing, right? Remember, that's
yeah.
how we kind of segued into this. So the captain, the guy grilling everybody and stuff, he scored a goal, and then after, so I never knew any of this, obviously, because I was just kind of learning things like as the weekend went on. So out at the bus, this like older lady, she looked like, I don't know, like she would have a son about my age. You know what I mean? She's like at the bus and she's got this $100 bill in her hand. She's like, "Have you seen Tyler?" And I'm like, Tyler, like who the fuck is Tyler? Like I don't remember anyone's name being Tyler. So I'm like, okay, who's this lady? And the bus driver, he's like, "Oh, he's still inside." So I'm like, okay, it must be a guy on her team or something. Like a mom's probably helping him out. So I'm sitting there and we get home, or we get back on the bus, sorry. And Marvin, one of the guys, goes to me, he goes, "Yeah, you know that he gets $100 for every goal he scores?" And I was like, are you serious?
From mom?
He's like 28 years old. From his mom, he gets $100 every time he scores a goal. I'm like, that just kind of sums up this league in a nutshell perfectly. It's unbelievable. It's like, have you ever watched the movie Slapshot?
Yeah.
It's everything and more. It's everything you'd expect and more.
Shout out to Tyler making $100 a Gino.
I know.
Man, you got a good season. You pull a couple G's back, you're good to go.
Honest to God.
Wow. Well, considering it's $95 more than your per diem, that goes a long way if you pot a couple.
I know. Well, that's the other thing too. We're thinking about, like, me and my buddy Nikita were talking about on our way home. We were driving back from Watertown. We're like, how do guys stay there for $98 a week? Like, it's harder to give a guy $98 a week than it is $100. You could give him 5 20s, or you could give him 4 20s, a 10, a 5, and 3 fucking ones for $98. It doesn't make sense.
Oh my God. So yeah, you're making what, $392 a week, $394, like,
So
yeah, a month. Yeah.
This league that they're getting paid $98 for, how time consuming is it?
Oh yeah, dude, they're on like, it's their job. That's all they do. They don't do anything else. This is their God. And they call it professional hockey. It's men's league with fans, honestly. And the reason they have fans is because fighting's allowed. It's 5-minute penalties. Like, it's a circus, man.
So that's
yeah,
for it, right?
it's legitimately a circus.
Man,
it's Slapshot. I'm not kidding. Like, it's serious.
Jordo, we might have to go down and watch a game of the FHL somewhere. Okay, so hold on. Now let's compare that to your time over in Europe. You played some time in Sweden, some time in Denmark. I feel like that was a completely different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, over there was different because I don't even want to call it necessarily like professional hockey. We can call it minor pro if you want, because I made some money, right? So,
okay.
I mean, if you want to call it pro, you can. They're essentially amateur leagues, but they're great development leagues, and older guys play in those leagues. But what you get in those leagues, you get a lot of guys that played, maybe SHL or Allsvenskan, or, that's the first and second league in Sweden.
Okay.
Excuse me. That was bugging me.
Right.
So yeah, first and second leagues in Sweden, and you get some older guys that are like done playing there, and they'll come back and play in these like other leagues and the lower leagues in Sweden, and it's actually decent hockey, man. It's fun, and you get to see parts of the world and stuff, and make a little bit of money. So that's really cool. I think that was an interesting experience, and you learn a lot just about the game over there, and how they treat people over there and everything. And they're just fantastic people over there in Scandinavia, and that's where I was able to spend my time, which is pretty nice. And
probably a lot of fun as a early 20s. You get to go over there, play some hockey, you can live the dream a little bit longer, and
absolutely,
like you said, meet so many more people in the hockey industry. And it leads to you now having so much more experience in the hockey world that you can come back and start something like Pursuit Hockey Development.
Yeah, exactly, man. And that's kind of a perfect segue into it, actually. Is like, when I came back, or when I was at the tail end of my season, in my last season in Sweden, I was like, man, what do I want to do? Like, I went to college, I got my diploma, and that's great, but I might as well stick to what I know. I love hockey. It's all I've ever wanted to do. I chased it to the point where I moved to Europe just to play a little longer. You know what I mean? In some minor pro leagues, and I've just always been super passionate and loved the game. So, my last, like I was saying, the tail end, I was like, I got to do something with hockey, and I started just writing a business plan. Getting everything in order, kind of talking to my buddies, seeing what they could offer, and like how we could make this thing happen when we got home. So got home last summer, and just did some camps in the summer. We had like a spring development team that we brought to a couple tournaments, and we had some success. So it was actually a really good first year, if we want to call it a year. But kind of 6 months into the process, we also started our management side, which is like going to be kind of like the agency thing where we do, player advising and player representation. So we have a couple pro guys and that take care of the pro side of things, obviously with rules for NCAA and things like that. So the advisors, we have a couple of us that work with the younger guys, development, all that. And then once they're through that, stage of our process, I guess, when they're ready to move pro, we have pro guys to help them, send them wherever they'd like. So I think that's it's a good partnership, I guess, to have.
For sure. And then, so are you involved strictly on the hockey side, or is your specialization then as well? Are you working on that, I use the term full service agency in the sense that you guys are trying to represent athletes with PhD as well?
Yeah, of course. So myself, I'm kind of in a unique, weird situation where I'm coaching junior. I'm helping advise players. So I can't really be involved on the pro side, because if I do, then I could ruin eligibility for, some of my advisees, which I wouldn't want to do. Now, obviously, owning the entire thing, right? I own the whole business with a partner. So the problem is, I got to make sure that it doesn't fall back on me somehow. So, obviously we have things in place to make sure that, that doesn't happen to our advisees.
Yeah. And so who are some studs you got coming through the pipeline? You got any big names that are going to be ripping into the OHL, or what's that route? Are you of the opinion that kids should be going, I use that term all the time, players should be going to, the NCAA route? Is that something that you advise them, or are you thinking OHL? What's your standpoint?
Yeah, so what's funny is I kind of have an objective standpoint. So a lot of people will choose one side or the other. They'll be like, you got to go to the OHL because this reason and that reason. You go Canadian college after that. They give school packages, and that's all fantastic. And then you have other people sometimes that are like, no, don't go OHL. You got to go NCAA. It's all about school. It's all about this. Yeah, that's great. But everyone's journey is different, and that's kind of why my experience comes in to help me understand that. I played single A and I was 4'10" until I was 14, 15 years old. OHL was never an option for me. I always wanted to play hockey, so I just played. And even though I played single A and didn't play the highest level, I still had fun. I got better. You just work hard and you just got to play. So sorry, I just heard something kind of threw me off a little bit. Good. I forgot where I was. What I was talking about.
Well, no, it's okay. So we've got this unique situation where there's so many kids who are wanting to play.
What we were talking about now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, because we were talking about the NCAA versus OHL. So yeah, basically, I think everyone's just unique. Their journey obviously is unique to them, and I think you have to kind of look at your kids that you're helping and your advisees and look and say, okay, does he play tough? Does he play a certain way? Is he more skill? Is he this, that? Because then you can advise him and direct him in the right direction, right. To be like, your game is more suited for the OHL. And then afterwards, it's not that school isn't an option. And honestly, the OHL is kind of a fast track if you're a really good hockey player to get to the professional leagues. Yeah. And I think that is an obvious route, that if you're good enough, go that way. But if you're going to be a bubble guy that plays 3-4 years and then comes and finishes junior here, you might as well just play good junior A somewhere and then try and go to school if that's what you want.
Yeah. When you look at guys nowadays, to your point about being maybe slightly undersized, guys like Johnny Gaudreau, Quinn Hughes, who's lighting it up in the NHL. Yeah. They probably didn't have that size at 16 to join the NHL, the CHL, right? And so having those extra couple years to develop as a player are crucial, especially if you're undersized. So it's something that's an automatic factor you got to consider right away.
100%. And you look at guys like Cale Makar too, right? Yeah. He played in the AJ, Alberta Junior League. And, he started out a pretty good defenseman, but he just developed because he played a lot and got the minutes, and who knows what would have happened if he were in the WHL or something else. But
that's something that so many kids get so hung up on is, trying to play AAA compared to, if you're a bubble guy, playing AA is so beneficial long term because you're the top guy on AA instead of the bottom pairing in AAA. The fact that so many parents are such a major issue too, right? I'm sure you've dealt with that a million times now. Yeah. But parents are so hung up on being able to say, "Yeah, my son plays AAA hockey. I'm a big deal," right?
That's the worst part about it, man.
It's so tough, and these systems are in place for a reason. Yeah. Ultimately, right? And if you're a top player on AAA, yeah, that's fantastic to be playing there. But if you're a bubble guy or one of those bottom 6 guys, you should take full advantage of, getting cut, but then bust your ass the next year, grind out in AA, and make sure that you're taking full advantage of the time you have on the ice.
100%.
Because you're going to be playing twice the amount.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all playing time and just development.
Yeah.
So ice time is king.
Yeah.
You can't really beat that. That's all it is.
So you also have this, speaking of development, you're talking about this Horseshoe Development Hockey League.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a bit about that.
So the Horseshoe Development Hockey League is actually brand new. It'll be our first year this year. We're going to have likely 6 teams. We have 5 committed right now. We're waiting on the last one, but it doesn't start till May 6th.
Okay.
So it goes from May 6th to June 24th. And essentially what it is a small league, a development league for the GOJHL. Basically, it's not directly affiliated because we're not going to be sanctioned by Hockey Canada.
Okay.
So we'll be a summer league. But it'll be 6 teams. We're keeping it small for a reason. We don't want it just watered down, and it's not a money grab. Like we're doing this to develop hockey players. So we got about 6 teams, 10-game schedule.
Okay.
So you play 10 games as a season, and then there's a 2-day showcase style playoff format. It's real simple, real easy. And it'll just be great hockey, great summer hockey for these kids, that want to come back, even if they're playing the OHL or something. This is their hometown. Come back, play 10 games. You know what I mean? Just work on getting better. And a lot of guys too in the summer will play a lot of tournaments and, go here, there, and everywhere for tournaments. And I did that last year, and I didn't mind that. I like the tournament thing too, but the problem is you can't really monitor the quality of the tournament before you get there. So
Right.
I had a really good team, and I know other people that I know in this business that have really good development teams, and they bring them to tournaments, and then they just kill everybody, and it's like, well, this isn't fun.
Yeah.
You're beating teams 15-1. Like, what the hell's the point?
Yeah, you got to have some balance.
Yeah.
What age is this? Junior hockey? Is this?
Yeah, so this will be junior hockey, this development league. This will be ages 2005 to 2000 born.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Man, every time I hear the fact that 2000s and an 05 is just ridiculous.
I know.
So I'm a 97, you're a 93, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is bonkers. just to think about the fact that these 05s.
You're 97?
Yeah.
You really are McDavid then.
I know. That's what, dude. So half the reason I got that jersey is because I used it as a Halloween costume because I get told so much that I look like him. Borrowed my buddy's blue pants, tossed on the McDavid jersey, and
there you go.
had at her. So that, Taylor Hall, or Freddie Freeman. Those are the 3.
Had to throw it in there.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Man, that's the end goal. If we have Connor McDavid on, then the Athletes Podcast has made it.
Then you made it.
We'll see.
We'll switch spots. We'll see. We'll have a poll. See who votes. Who looks more like McDavid. So where would you say we've had a Mac Lemon, who was episode 17, came on. He played in the OHL. He played some OUA time, but he grew up and he said his favorite time ever was playing minor hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you say your favorite moments were?
It's actually kind of tough because I went to college with my best friend. We went to college together, and obviously there's fantastic times there, but it's also kind of the people you're with too, right? So I met some of my best friends when I was playing in Europe too.
Right.
My business partner, actually, Nikita Mandrick, I met him in Europe. So it's weird, like you take little experiences, I guess, from everywhere. And for me, I've been real fortunate too. Like I mentioned earlier that I went to a prep school, and that I'm surprised I ever even did that because, we came obviously from like a humble family and prep school was never even really on the radar. But obviously I met this coach and found this school that just made sense and we were able to make it work. And I made, unbelievable friendships and really grew as a person when I went to prep school those 2 years. And those are some of the, memories I probably cherish the most, I guess, is, learning and developing just as an individual and more so than even an athlete. It was paired perfectly and I had a lot of fun those 2 years. So that's probably the best times.
Gotcha. It's there's prep school is always an interesting one too because it's again back to that specialization. There's so many teams that'll just grind kids down. They're playing every day on the ice.
Oh yeah,
2-a-days in the gym. Man, as an athlete, you can burn out pretty quickly if you're working like that.
Yeah, you certainly can. The one thing actually that I don't want to say I regret, but I wish I almost didn't do was work out so much. When I was in prep school, that was the one thing. Like I was at the gym because I was playing lacrosse too. You got to play multiple sports.
Right.
I remember the one day specifically, my Coach Brubaker, we were playing a game, Gould Academy, I think. Who cares? So after I went to the gym after the game and I was like working out and he comes in, he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm working out. Like, hockey season's next year. Like, I'm not taking a day off. You know what I mean? Like, I want to get better. And he's like, you're overtraining. Like, you're going to burn out, blah, blah, blah. You're not playing great, like, lacrosse for us, which in my mind, I'm like, who cares? Like, I'm not here for lacrosse. But then I was like, you know what? He's right, too. Like, this is a commitment to the school. Like, I got to be better. And then sure enough, a couple weeks later, like, I was just exhausted, man, trying to do it all. And then I finally just took it back, step back, and you got to realize that, you know, your body needs rest too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would if you've got all of these athletes here, you're coaching, what would your recommendation be? Are you in the gym 5 days a week, off season, in season? What's your recommended protocol?
Off season, I mean, it's weird because you want to take a break from hockey sometimes and step away. Yeah. The only real way to stay in like hockey shape is to stay on the ice. Like, I mean, you can't, no matter what you do away, like sprinting, blah, 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 all that stuff. That's all great for training, explosiveness and you know, dynamics and stuff like that. That's fantastic. But staying in good hockey shape, you got to stay on the ice.
Nothing emulates being on the ice. There's nothing. It's actually one of those few sports where you can't replicate what you're doing. Yeah. Even on like those synthetic ice surfaces, the ones that move.
I've tried rollerblading in off season, everything just to try. It doesn't work. You got to stay on the ice. I don't get it. It's weird.
It's that's what makes hockey players so unique. Super underrated athletes too.
Yeah.
You know, with the hand-eye coordination, the skills required to skate in general. I don't know what the percentage of people that can skate in society, but probably I would say less than 50%. For sure.
Probably.
And, you know, you add in throwing a puck around. Those are all skills that I think make great athletes. What do you think is the most important from a coaching standpoint that makes the best athletes?
I think as a coach now, I think the focus is more on building the individual. Obviously, the skills are one thing, right? And you're only as good as, you know, what you can teach somebody. I think I got this one sign, which is kind of funny. It's like a good coach can change a game, but a great coach can change a life. You know what I mean? And that sounds kind of corny, but it's so true. And, you know, obviously you want to be a good coach and be able to, you know, have an impact on the game and win games and stuff like that. But I think it's more important, especially now with, you know, the lack of accountability and discipline and things like that we encounter, to instill those values in people and, you know, teach them how to live in the real world, really, and use the skills that they learn in sport and translate them into their real life.
Yeah, ultimately you're a teacher, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same as how
role model, exactly.
Yeah, you're directly affecting these individuals' lives for the rest of their life. And that's why, you know, I'm only saying this because of right now, but like teachers are on strike and
just drove past them.
Yeah, exactly. Picking it out there, causing a ruckus. But those, you know, you're paid not only to teach them those hockey skills, but those life skills. So it's important that you're taking it seriously, and obviously you are, which is kudos to you. Yeah, and so let's go right into, I said we were talking about the Pelham Panthers, but what's your team looking like now? How are you feeling? What are the boys at, you know, 2/3 of the way through the season? How are you guys feeling?
Yeah, well, honestly, we've played some really good hockey. We're a team that's, you know, 6th place right now, and that's where we're going to stay for playoffs. But we play hard. We've played every team tough. We've beaten the top 4 teams in the league. I think we beat all the teams ahead of us at one point or another in the season. So Caledonia, Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, Thorold, and Hamilton. We've taken care of all of them at one point. So we do compete every night. We just have to play simple and hard hockey. And when we think that we can, you know, dangle and do those things, which we can't, we just, you know, we don't quite have the personnel. Yeah. Then we lose games, and that's just how it is. And that's, you know, trying to stay disciplined to our systems. And if we do that, we're a really good hockey team, and we're young and fast. So that's another part of it too, right? And lately we've had a couple injuries hurt us. Some of our bigger goal scorers have been out of the lineup, which, you know, it just makes your team look different on the ice. You know, it's totally, it's tough to get through, but, you know, we've been working hard and playing teams tough still. And I think when we get those pieces back, we'll be ready to go to the playoffs. It'll be nice.
I think it's actually beneficial to have those kind of injuries during the season. And then, you know, hopefully, fingers crossed, they don't occur and take you out for the rest of the year. But it makes your team play so much better. And as a group, when you don't have those guys that you can rely on to pot a couple a game, right? Like the Toronto Raptors, for instance, last year having Kawhi Leonard, you know, the guy was on load management for half the year.
Yeah.
That forces the other 9 guys to pick up the pace, to pick up their point scoring. Like, you got to pick up the slack.
It's picking up the pace. It's also playing differently, right? So, like, I'm thinking if you take a guy like Austin Matthews, if he gets hurt, you're not going to replace him with someone, okay, you're going to do these dangles, you're going to rip the same shots. No, they have to play a different style now.
Yeah, and
they score goals differently.
100%.
It brings that team mentality so much more into it, and so crucial. So, if, obviously you're taking advantage of it right now, and you guys are still winning games, and you end up with a lower seed in the playoffs, and you just got to work harder.
Absolutely. That's all it is, right? Your team identity, and hard work has to be instilled in your team identity with those guys in the lineup and without them. And if you can just do that, then you'll always give yourself a chance to stay in games and compete.
Yeah. And so for those who are listening, who are maybe entering, we ask this occasionally, you've got, coming from your background of playing so long, undersized, everything was going against you at one point or another. What would you give to those kids that maybe just got cut, or, are trying to make that bantam draft, that whatever the next step is? What's some of tips and tricks and advice that you'd give to them?
The main piece of advice is that time is on your side. You're young. I had a fella come up to me last night from my bantam team after our practice, and he goes, Coach Carson, he's like, can you be honest with me? And, we're playing bantam AE right now, so it's like a step above house league. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is a nice thing to see too, but he comes up and he goes, where do you think I can go in hockey? And I said, how old are you, Mikhail? He goes, 13. And I was like, okay, well, you can go literally wherever you want. Yeah. And he's like, well, really? You think so? I said, absolutely. If you want to work hard at it. I was like, this summer, because I trained some of his buddies last summer, and he asked me about that too. I said, this summer we want to work together, and, you can do whatever you want, man. Just work hard at it and be committed to it. And if this is something you want, you can play as long as you want. It's really up to you. So
following that too, I was going to ask, for people that might want to go the road of maybe playing in Europe if they can, how's that process start? Like, if you're here. Yeah,
so I mean, it's weird because when I went over there, I actually is another reason I started my business too, in like the agency side, or management side, I should say. When I first wanted to go to Europe, I didn't know how to do it, right? So I started contacting people, and I'm like, how do I do this? Like, I want to go do that. I want to experience that. I can make a little bit of money. Like, how do I do this? So I got in contact with this agent, and I will say his name, Randy Edmonds.
Okay.
Blacklisted, and I didn't realize at the time, but he's blacklisted by a ton of people for a lot of reasons. So he charged me and my buddy, and we didn't know anything about it, right? But in a way, I look back and I'm like I paid to play hockey, but I'm paying an agent, right? Which everybody has to pay an agent, just how it is. Yeah. But the fee that he charged was absolutely outrageous, and I wish I just did more research on it because I didn't know enough, right? So he charged us over $4,000 to represent us, and honestly, shit. I figured, okay, like he must be good, do a real good job, because within like a week he called us back and he's like, here, we got contracts in this league for you, this league for you, this league for you. I'm like, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So on my way over there, it's like a couple days before I'm supposed to leave for this team, he goes, so it fell through, but we're gonna send you to this team in Denmark, and you're gonna skate there for a couple weeks while we get it all figured out. And I'm like, so I still, at this point, I still trust the guy, because I don't know anything really.
You don't know anything.
You know
better,
what I mean?
Right?
I don't know anything better. So I'm like, all right. So I go to Denmark and I'm skating there, and the coach goes, so like, do you guys want to sign today? And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, what? Like, are you not here to sign? And I'm like, no, like, my agent told me I'm here to skate, which, thinking back, obviously that's not, like, that wouldn't make sense. Who the fuck would be like, yeah, let them come skate just so they can go somewhere else? It's insane. Yeah. So me and my buddy Tyler, we're sitting there, and he's like, yeah, can you guys sign? And I'm like, I don't. So I called this agent, and I'm like, Randy, like, what's going on? And he's like, well, I don't know. What do you think? Like, what are they offering? And I'm like, well, the offer's like fair, but like, what about the Sweden thing? And he's like, well, we just don't have it figured out yet, so maybe just stay there for now. So I signed in Denmark, and I'm like, okay, like, this is fine. I liked it there. I had great billets. Like, I lived with unbelievable people. So that part was fun. But this fucking guy. So then later on in the year, I call him, and I'm like, Randy, like, I want to go to Sweden. Like, I know I'm playing in Denmark, I'm having fun, but like, I got good numbers, I'm playing well. Like, I want to get to Sweden already. So, because it's easier to move up from Sweden to go other places. It's just the reality. Like, Denmark's not looked upon as like a hockey country. Sweden is.
For sure.
And he goes, no, I'll stay there, put up numbers, like, blah, 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 like, just all this stuff. So then at the end of the year, I'm like, Randy, like, this is ridiculous. I was like, you charged me $4,500. And at this point, I've talked to other agents and other guys and seen like what they charged or their agents charged them. And it's like astronomically different. So I was like,
Jesus.
I feel like I've been underrepresented. Like, do you think, I could get a refund on part of my money? Like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And on top of that, in the summer, after we paid him the $4,500, he charged us $40 a skate if we want to go out and skate with him.
What the fuck?
Like, the guy's making money hand over foot. And on, young guys that quite honestly just don't know what they're doing. And we're trying to make it and like preying on our dreams, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this right. I don't charge close to that because I think it's insane. And all he did was find us a team. He didn't even represent us. He didn't talk to the teams. He did nothing. We did all that.
Wow.
So it's like he just took our money, told us he'd find us a team, sent us to Europe, and then we got lucky.
Yeah.
Which is insane to me. So I was like, you know what? I want to represent guys and do it right and actually like help people, because I can't believe the amount of guys. Another agent the year after greased me and my buddy for $750, saying that we had contracts in like certain leagues and everything, and then he just deleted our numbers and like blocked us. So that's like 2 experiences in 2 years. I was like, I can't handle this, man. Like, I want to help kids. Like, this is unbelievable.
So this, because I've had guys who played at Brock basketball who have had similar experiences with going over to Europe, contracts falling through, whatever the case is. Is this something that is just happens in sports that people have to come to terms with, or obviously you're doing a bit with Pursuit and trying to mitigate that, but you're one guy ultimately, right? You can only do so much. It's a shame that these guys are preying on young athletes.
And the problem is too, like, some of these guys that are preying on athletes are established in the business already, right? So it's like other people know them, and I'm trying to get established, and I think it's been going in the right direction. And I'm trying to do as much as I can to promote and market it with the little resources that I have and
the
little
Athletes
marketing experience.
Podcast.
Exactly, like the Athletes Podcast. But yeah, so sorry, what was the question?
You've got so many. No, it's okay. You've got so many people now preying on these young athletes. You're trying to mitigate that. How are you trying to remove that from the game? Is that something that you think is possible over the next decade?
Yeah. So you're saying, is it just like a widely accepted in sports, right? So I guess the problem is, that is something you got to deal with. People get screwed over in sports all the time because at the end of the day, they're all businesses, right? These people make money off their organizations. So it's like, whatever they can do to swing a deal and, swindle and get the best, the most out of it for themselves, they'll do that. And it's just the sad part of it, and the unfortunate piece too is like, you have these agents and these other guys that are, the in-betweeners between the organizations and the players that are making these connections, and the middlemen are screwing everybody because it's like, it makes the organization kind of look like shit, makes the player look bad for being represented by this guy. So any kind of affiliation with that person then becomes like, pushed to the side. And these guys that are established sometimes get away with that because it's like, well, it's one guy working for this big company who's an asshole, so they'll just get rid of him and then the company's still fine.
Yeah.
It seems like it's, and not just in sports, but I'm assuming like lack of knowledge too, right? Like if you want to go play in Europe, like you said, starting off, you have no idea how to do it.
Exactly.
So you're finding people that, balls in their court. They're like, well, I can charge this guy whatever I want as long as he thinks I know how to do it. Like,
100%.
He'll pay me.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's what I did.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you too, playing in Europe, how is the Olympic size ice? Is it different?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I played in Fort Erie too, which has the big ice.
Nice.
Yeah.
And actually, funny enough, they screwed up the dimensions in Fort Erie. It's bigger than Olympic ice.
No way.
Yeah, it's huge, which is cool.
My hometown rink, so Surrey, British Columbia, was Olympic size, and I loved it as a goaliie.
Yeah.
There's so much, man. The shots are coming out from so much farther. Guys, I guess so. Like, I miss playing it. We're playing in Meriton now for intramural puck, and I'm getting lit up because guys are so close. I'm like, everything's right in the slot, or you got no chance. So
that's funny.
That shows my goaltending abilities. But so you got any last comments for Pursuit Hockey? What your kind of goals are for the future? What you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, basically, we do, summer training. I'm having a Euro development camp in Pelham this summer, so we're bringing Europeans here, which is going to be an interesting thing.
Very cool.
And we want to do a couple exhibition games against, a couple of junior teams here, so that could be a couple interesting events. Other than that, we're going to do some summer skates, stuff like that. Guys who are junior age players, some younger guys. So if you're looking to train, obviously, I appreciate, reaching out and
And where can
signing up.
people
It'd be
find
nice.
you on social media?
So social media is just Facebook, I think /Pursuit Hockey Development, facebook.com/Pursuit Hockey Development. And then Pursuit Hockey is our Instagram and Twitter handles. Unfortunately, website's kind of under construction.
That's all right. So is ours.
Yeah, I made my website, funny enough, by myself because I was just trying to save money when I started, all right, and I was grinding every day and making this website, and got finished, and I was like kind of like proud of it, I guess, just because it was a lot of work. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. And I showed my brother, who's like a graphic designer, and he's like, it's not terrible, but he's trying to be nice about it. I was like, oh man, that's tough. So you got to just spend the money and get it done right. So I'm in the process of that.
Goes back to that polar opposites thing you were bringing up.
Exactly.
Well, Carson, we really appreciate you coming on here, sharing your knowledge, insight, and getting a couple laughs here, learning about the FHL. Yeah. So thank you again. Good luck with Pursuit Hockey Development, and we wish you all the best. And we'll try and make it out to a couple events maybe in the summer. Watch some Euro players play.
Yeah, be fantastic. Maybe get a little play-by-play going.
There you go. Exactly. I love it.
Right on.
All right. Well, thank you, Athletes Podcast listeners, for tuning into this episode of the Athletes Podcast. When you guys are listening on Thursday, you guys will also see a little video of our fitness challenge update. We look forward to hearing from you guys. If you guys haven't yet, subscribe to us on YouTube, on iTunes podcasts, whatever streaming service you use, Spotify, whatever you got. Listen in, tune in. Take care.